What's the rep for that one, Chick?
Just got the dates.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا اللهم زدنا علما إنك أنت عليم حكيم اللهم اجعل هذه المحاضرة حجة لنا لا حجة علينا يا رب العالمين أما بعد. Today, inshallah ta'ala, this evening, we're going to discuss Zakat Al-Fitr. Zakat Al-Fitr, inshallah ta'ala. We're going to come from Zad al-Mustaqni', this one small section or segment here, dealing with Zakat Al-Fitr. What is Zakat Al-Fitr? Does anyone know? What is it? Zakat Al-Fitr, what is it? Charity giving. Is Zakat al-Fitr part of the pillars of Islam? What do you say when you pay Zakat? Is this the Zakat they're talking about? No? Right. Huh? So what is Zakat al-Fitr? Huh? What is it? Zakat for Ramadan. Right. What is Zakat supposed to be? What is it? What is it exactly? We pay chicken? Huh? It's a what?
Assad.
Assad? Not Assad is a letter. As-sa'a. But what is a sa'a? We're going to talk about that, inshallah. What is a sa'a?
Measurement though, right?
Is it a measurement? Yes. It is a measurement. How much do you pay? I'm sorry?
7 pounds?
7 pounds? What do you get 7 pounds for? 7 pounds of what? Huh? 7 pounds of what? I heard someone say 7 pounds, right? What's 7 pounds of what? 7 pounds of chicken? 7 pounds of popcorn?
Well, typically it's done, I guess, rice. I'm not sure what the main.
How much are you paying? You said 7 pounds. What is 7 pounds though? Well, 7 pounds is equivalent of what?
One sock.
Say again?
7 pounds is the equivalent of one sock.
It's the equivalent of one sa. Is that true? Is that true? Does everyone agree with that? Huh? So then if you have 7 pounds of anything, then that will suffice for Zakat al-Fitr for one sa. Is that true? Is that
about
3 what?
sock. Units of
So what are we supposed to pay?
a sock per person.
Huh?
One sock per person.
One sa per person. Good.
Your household.
Of your household. Anything else? I just want to get the information, see what you guys have. Huh? I'm just asking. I mean, you know, this is something that, as Muslims, is something that we do every year, right? We pay Zakat al-Fitr. So the question is, how much is a sa'? Huh? We mentioned pounds and all of that, right? Or kilograms or what? How do we measure it?
Actually, about a sock is actually about the equivalent of 2 pounds.
Is what?
Roughly. equivalent of roughly 2 pounds.
2 pounds. All right, we're going to talk about that, inshallah ta'ala. Inshallah. طيب. قال المصنف رحمه الله تعالى, the author of Zad al-Mustaqni', Abu Najah al-Hajjawi, Imam al-Hajjawi رحمه الله تعالى. First of all, he says, Zakat al-Fitr هو تجب على كل مسلم فضل له يوم العيد وليلته صاع من قوته. First thing he mentioned is that it is incumbent or obligatory for every Muslim that has additional food for themselves for that day, meaning the day of the Eid and the night of the Eid, that they must pay a sa'a an qutihi. A sa'a, does anyone know what this is? What is this? Does anyone know? It's a what? It's a cup? It's a what? It's a mud. So what is a mud? Does anyone know what a mud is? A mud. So the Prophet ﷺ, the way that they would measure a sa'a is that they would take their hands and put them together. And when you put your hands together and you fill up something in your hands, this is called a mud. 4 of these scoops is considered one what? Sa'a. Okay? Like, this here is a mud. This is the measurements of a what? Of a mud. This mud here has the ijazah that goes back to the Prophet ﷺ. It was taken from Zayd ibn Thabit, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, who was from the companions of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this here, if you were to fill this up with any type of food that you're going to pay in zakat, and you fill it up to the brim, this is one mud an-nabawi, meaning this is the one mud of the Prophet ﷺ. When he put his hands together, this is one mud. 4 of these scoops would be what? One sa'. Okay? So when we talk up in this here, this was given to us by a Sheikh Yahya al-Mudarris fi Mecca. He's one of the elder scholars in Mecca, and we would go to him, and he gave the students ijazah and a mud. This is ijazah and a mud. He will sign off paperwork saying, yes, you can narrate on me, and goes back to the Prophet ﷺ that this here was used during the time of the Prophet ﷺ. Huh? No, the measurement, the actual measurement, not this can. The measurement within it. Hey. Like, so he says, وَعَنْ قُوتِهِ وَقُوتِ عِيَالِهِ. So he would spend food for himself. You might want to fill that up. You might want to empty that, dump that out, put it in the bucket. Like, malish. So the food will suffice them and their families. وَحَوَائِجِهِ. Yani, if you're going to give zakat al-fitr, as long as you're giving that which is in addition to what will suffice you and your family in their needs. وَلَا يَمْنَعُهَا الدَّيْنِ إِلَّا بِطَلَبِهِ. So let's say, for example, it's time to pay zakat al-fitr, but you owe someone money. You owe a dain. You have a debt. They say in this case, you still should pay your zakat al-fitr unless that person requests their debt that you pay it right now. Otherwise, you pay zakat al-fitr. فَيُخْرِجُ عَنْ نَفْسِهِ. Then a person gives the food from himself. So he pays for himself. وَعَنْ نَفْسِهِ فَيُخْرِجُ عَنْ نَفْسِهِ وَعَنْ مُسْلِمْ يَمُونُهُ. He pays zakat al-fitr for himself and for any Muslim he is responsible for. What he is responsible for. So another thing here, it says فَيُنْفِقُ عَلَيْهِ. So he pays, that Muslim will pay zakat al-fitr for the one that, for himself and the people that he is responsible for. وَلَوْ شَهْرَ رَمَضَانَ فَإِنْ عَجَزَ. Even if it's just for 1 month. Let's say, for example, a person got married in the middle of Ramadan. Do you have to pay zakat al-fitr on your spouse in this case? Nah. Yes. If you got married in Ramadan, even if it's the last day before the Eid and you got married, you got to pay zakat al-fitr on that spouse. طيب ولو شهر رمضان فإن عجز عن بعض بدأ بنفسه. So let's say for example he has عياله كبير يعني he has a big family. He has a big family. طيب. However, he only has enough for himself and one other person. So it says what? It says بدأ بنفسه. Then first he starts with himself for paying Zakat al-Fitr. Then it says فإمرأته. Then he pays for his wife. فَرَفِيقِهِ فَأُمِّهِ وَهَكَذا. And then he pays for his mother, and then his father, etc., etc. And then after that it says فَأَقْرَبُ مِنَ الْمِرَاثِ. And then after that he goes to who inherits from him next. Who's the next person to inherit from him once he passes away. And this is how they determine who, let's say for example you have limited resources. You have what? Limited resources. So you have to pay Zakat al-Fitr, but you only have enough for a select amount of people. Let's suppose there's 10 people in your family. You only have enough to pay for 5. Then this is how you select those 5. The closest to you from inheritance, etc., etc. It goes through this process. وَيُسْتَحَبُّ عَنِ الْجَنِينِ. If a person is pregnant, if a woman is pregnant, it is recommended that you pay for the child that's in the stomach. It's recommended, not wajib. And this is due to the action of Uthman ibn Affan radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. Who was Uthman ibn Affan? Does anyone know? Uthman, who was it? Huh? The third Khalifa of the Muslims. So first became Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. Then after Abu Bakr as-Siddiq came who? Umar ibn Khattab. And after Umar ibn Khattab came who? Huh? Uthman ibn Affan. So Uthman ibn Affan, he paid Zakat al-Fitr for his unborn child, as this was the actions of him. وَلَا تَجِبُ عَلَيْهِ. And it is not obligatory. It is not obligatory. Like, وَلَا تَجِبُ لِنَاشِزٍ. And it is not obligatory for a man to pay Zakat al-Fitr for a wife that doesn't listen to him. This is called a woman that is nashiz. Nashiz. A woman that doesn't listen to him, then that husband is not required to spend on her. He is not required to spend on her. It's considered zawjatul asiyah, a woman who is sinful. It is not a requirement that he spends on her. وَمَنْ لَزِمَتْ غَيْرَهُ فِطْرَتُهُ فَأَخْرَجَ عَنْ نَفْسِهِ بِغَيْرِ إِذْنِهِ أَجْزَأَتْ. So here, if a person pays for themselves, then they say أجزأت. Let's say, for example, a wife pays Zakat al-Fitr for herself. The husband didn't get a chance to, this will also suffice her. When does Zakat al-Fitr become obligatory in terms of the timing? When does it become obligatory? When do we say right now is wajib to pay Zakat al-Fitr? When does that start? Does anyone know? The last day of what? Fasting? Before it becomes wajib when? Fine. It says tajibu bi ghurub ash-shams laylat al-fitr. So let's say for example tomorrow is the Eid. When would Zakat al-Fitr become wajib? As soon as the sun sets. As soon as the sun sets tonight, assuming that the Eid is tomorrow, once the sun set, at that point in time, so Zakat al-Fitr becomes what? Obligatory. Becomes obligatory. طيب فمن أسلم بعده أو ملك عبدا أو تزوج أو ولد له لم تلزمه فطرته. So now they give some exceptions here. Let's say for example, a person accepts Shahada right now. He takes Shahada today, and after Maghrib is the Eid. Do they have to pay Zakat al-Fitr, yes or no? Now, Zakat al-Fitr is upon them. Let's say, for example, as soon as the sun sets, right? And now it's the Eid, and somebody accepts Islam, someone gets married, etc., etc. Do they have to pay Zakat al-Fitr? Yes or no? Huh? Sheikh Saeed, huh? Shandi.
They accepted after the sun went down?
That they accepted Islam once the sun set. No. Alright? That person is not obliged to pay Zakatul Fitr. A person is not obliged to pay Zakatul Fitr. طيب. وَقَبْلَهُ تَلْزَمُ. Now, if all of those things happen right before the sunset, and once the sunset it becomes the Eid, the day of the Eid, then everything that happened before that, a person accepts Islam 5 minutes before, a person has a child 20 minutes before the Eid, you have to pay zakat on that child. If you get married right before the Eid, the day before the Eid, you have to pay zakat for that wife, etc., etc. Is that clear? Thank you.
With that born child, it was only recommended that they pay while it was
The
born.
unborn child.
That's what I mean.
Not the born child.
Before it's born.
Yes.
It was only recommended. So
Yes.
once it's born, then
It's wajib. As long as it's before the Eid. As long as it's before the Eid. Like, yajuzu. However, it is permissible. إخراجها قبل العيد بيومين فقط. It is permissible to pay Zakat al-Fitri before the Eid with 2 days. So let's say, for example, if we knew that the Eid would be tomorrow, which is what, Sunday, that's assuming. Then that means it would have been permissible for us to start paying, yani yuwazzi', spreading out, passing out Zakat al-Fitr yesterday. So we would have had yesterday and today would have been Sunnah. However, tonight after Maghrib would have been what? Wajib. Wadah? Is that clear? So it would have been permissible 2 days before, but once the day of the Eid, meaning as soon as Maghrib comes in, it will become wajib. It will become obligatory at that point in time. Like the best time to pay Zakat al-Fitr is the day of the Eid before Salatul Eid. So let's say, for example, we wait till tomorrow morning's the Eid, we get up, we go to the masjid, we pray Fajr. After Fajr, before Salatul Eid, which, once again, brothers and sisters in Al-Islam, the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is to delay Salatul Eid al-Fitr. Salatul Eid al-Fitr, a sunnah, is to delay it, not to pray right after Fajr. No, هذا خطأ. This is not correct. Rather, it is recommended, not saying it is wrong, but it's recommended from the Prophet ﷺ to delay it. So, for example, as Fajr comes in at, let's say, 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock. Fajr comes in at 4 o'clock, right? So instead of praying Salatul Eid at 6, they would delay it. Maybe pray it at 9, 8:30, etc., etc. Which is opposite from Eid al-Adha. Eid al-Adha, this Salat should be prayed early. It should be prayed close to Fajr, yani really early. So that way afterwards, it's recommended for the Muslim not to eat before Salatul Eid al-Adha. This is where they go out and they slaughter. Whereas for Zakat or for Salatul Eid al-Fitr, it is sunnah to eat before you leave. It's sunnah to eat before you leave. طيب. وَتُقْرَأُ فِي بَاقِهِ. It is hated for a person to pay Zakat al-Fitr after the Eid. Rather, it is sinful. طيب. What is the amount that a person must pay for Zakat al-Eid? وَيَجِبُ الصَّاعُ مِنْ بُرٍ. A sa'a is what? What did we say a sa'a was? 4 mud or arba'ata amdad. Arba'ata amdad is, so 1 mud is this. This is 1 mud. 1 mud is this, and this is the equivalent of 2 hands together. Right? 1 mud, right? A sa'a is 4 of these. 4 of these scoops is 1 sa'a. This is what needs to be paid in for Zakat al-Fitr. What is bur? Bur is wheat. Bur is wheat. And then they said, so the hadith, as it mentions, bur o sha'ir. Sha'ir is something that is called barley. Paid in barley, the same thing. O daqiqihima, o the flour. Paid in flour. Or sawiqihima, or fine flour. Or tamrin, or dates. Or zabib, olives, or leban, like a dry, like cottage cheese, right? فَإِنْ عُدِمَ الْخَمْسَةِ. These are the 5 things that are mentioned in the hadith. If you don't have those 5 things, إِنْ عُدِمَ الْخَمْسَةِ أَجْزَأَ كُلُّ حَبٍّ وَثَمَرٍ يُقْتَاتِ or يُقْتَاتِ. Any seed that you can store away, any food or seed that you can store away for a long period of time, then that will suffice. Then that will suffice. As long as the food that you store away is not harmed or damaged. You can't store away bread. So you can't give away bread for Zakat al-Fitr because it can't be stored away. And this is the determining device. It has to be al-kayl wal-ittikhar. Al-kayl wal-ittikhar. Al-kayl means it can be weighed, and ittikhar means you can store it away for a long period of time. You can store it away for a long period of time. طيب. That was what we're going to mention about Zakat al-Fitr. The next mas'ala, or the next issue of importance with regards... So first of all, do we have an understanding on this? Or no? There's an understanding on Zakat al-Fitr. The sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ to pay Zakat al-Fitr in food. It's from the sunnah of the Messenger of Allah ﷺ to pay in food. This is what he did. However, there is some differing of opinion among some of the scholars of Islam with regards to paying Zakat al-Fitr in wealth or money or nuqud. And the reason why is it important to even mention this, as one brother mentioned, perhaps that shouldn't be mentioned at all. The reality of it is, if we lived in a society where everyone paid food, then there wouldn't be any purpose of mentioning that there's a position that people pay in money. The problem is, in a society where we live, sometimes we can be very harsh Muslims to other Muslims. And so it's very likely that some of the masajid in the city, as I've seen, they take money for Zakat al-Fitr. And what this does is, if you are not familiar with other positions, then you will be quick to point the finger and look down on other masajid as they're practicing a bid'ah, or they're doing an innovation, etc., etc. And this is very easy for us to do when we don't have knowledge. It's always easy to open your mouth when you don't know. And so for that purpose is why we're going to mention the other position. I'm not mentioning it so that you can go and pay money, as we recommend brothers and sisters here to pay in food. However, if you see people paying with money, and it's not for you to look down on them, etc., because they do have evidence that support it. And we're going to talk about that, inshallah. Are we clear on that so far? Huh? Right. So the ulama of Islam, they say that there are basically qawlayn, 2 positions with regards to paying Zakat al-Fitr with money as opposed to food. There are 2 positions. So it says, right. إخراج قيمة في زكاة الفطر اختلف فيها علماء على قولين. Paying Zakat al-Fitr with money, the scholars of the Salaf, we're talking about the scholars of the past, they differ in the 2 positions. Al-awwal, the first position is al-man' min dhalik, that it is haram, not permissible to do that. And this is the statement of a'immat al-thalatha, meaning the 3 imams, Imam Ahmed, Imam Malik, Imam al-Shafi'i. Imam Ahmed ibn Hanbal, Imam Malik, and Imam al-Shafi'i, rahimahum Allah ta'ala. This is their position. Wa Shafi wa Ahmed. Wa qala bihi al-Zahiriyya ayda. The school of Zahiri madhab, they also say the same thing. And what is their evidence? Because brothers and sisters in Islam, our deen is based on dalil, kitab, sunnah, Quran and sunnah. So they say that the dalil that they use was tadil bi hadith Abdullah ibn Amr fi sahihain, and the 2 sahih, Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. Farada Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam Zakat al-Fitr sa'an. That the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he said that Zakat al-Fitr is a sa'a of tamr, a sa'a of bur, which is, tamr is dates, bur is what? Wheat or barley, or a sa'a min sha'ir, وفي رواية أو صاع من أقل على الصغير والكبير والمسلمين من المسلمين, that it is upon the older Muslims and the younger Muslims. This is Zakat al-Fitr. And so they say from this hadith, they say لو كانت القيمة يجوز إخراجها في زكاة الفطر لذكرها رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. They said that if it was permissible, this is the position of the scholars say you can't pay with money. They say if it was permissible to pay with money, a Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam would have mentioned it. He would have mentioned that it was permissible to pay with money. وَلَا يَجُوزُ, and this is based on another principle in Islam. It's called لَا يَجُوزُ تَأْخِيرَ الْبَيَانِ عَنْ وَقْتَ الْحَاجَةِ. Meaning, if a person did something that's impermissible, it's not permissible for you to delay in correcting that error. Does that make sense? Let's say, for example, we saw a person making salat and they had their hands on the back of their heads, or they did, suppose they wanted to pray without making wudu. You knew that they didn't have wudu, they told you they didn't have wudu, and they believe that it's okay to pray without having wudu. It's not permissible for you to delay clarifying to that person that you can't pray without wudu. This is this principle. لا يجوز تأخير البيان عن وقت الحاجة. It is not permissible to delay a clarification in the time of need. It is not permissible to delay clarifying something in the time of need of that particular thing. An example would be what? It's time to pray and you know that that person does not have wudu. So you tell them, listen, akhi, it is impermissible to pray without wudu. Is that clear? Like,
This is based on having knowledge of the situation.
yes, otherwise, if you don't have knowledge, then you can't say anything.
I just think it's, you got to be clear on that.
Well, how can you clarify something without knowledge?
It happens, shit. That's
So
what
you're not clear. If it can't happen because you're not clarifying
But I
anything.
mean, I think that was the premise you made in the beginning, like, based on
I sense.
having the knowledge.
Well, yeah. So the thing is, it's important that people know their lanes. You can't clarify something if you don't know it. And when we say, as the ulama define knowledge, they don't define knowledge as I heard a brother say, so I'm going to say, لا يعتبر علم. This is not considered ilm. العلم قال الله سبحانه وتعالى قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وقال ما أجمع عليه السلام. That which the scholars of the past have agreed upon. This is knowledge in Islam. Not I heard a brother say, I heard this one say, I heard that one say. And if someone says, I heard someone say, but then they don't take what you say and they get mad at you, this is not correct. There's nothing in Islam that supports that. Like, al-muhim. So we're going to read the next position. And it says, وَأَيْضًا نَصَّ فِي الْحَدِيثِ الْآخَرِ أَغْنُوهُمْ فِي هَذَا الْيَوْمِ. In another hadith, the Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, enrich them in this day. And they say, قالوا غناء الفقراء في هذا اليوم يوم العيد يكون فيما يأكلون حتى لا يضطرون لسؤال الناس. They say, enrich them this day means to give them food, that way they do not get to ask other people. The next position is, so that's the first one that says it's impermissible to give in money for Zakat al-Fitr. Right. The next position, يجوز إخراج القيمة. It is permissible to pay Zakat al-Fitr with money, في Zakat al-Fitr. And this is the position, قال به الإمام أبو حنيفة وأصحابه. Imam Abu Hanifa and his companions hold this position. وقال به التابعين سفيان الثوري. From the tabi'een, from the students of the companions, Sufyan al-Thawri, he also held this position. And likewise, Al-Hasan al-Basri, he also held this position. And likewise, Al-Khalifa Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, he also held this position. وروى عن بعض الصحابة كمعاوية, and it was also reported on Muawiyah, who was also from the companions, Ibn Abi Sufyan, حيث قال, that he said, إني لأرى مدينة سمراء شام تعدل صاع من تمر. So here, he considered a certain type of food in Sham to be equivalent to 1 sa' of dates. So let's say, for example, he said, okay, we consider this type of food here to be equal to this type of food. So they made qiyas. They didn't go by the 5 strictly things that the hadith mentions. So then it says, قال حسن البصري. Hasan al-Basri, rahimahullah, he said, لا بأس أن تعطي الدراهم في صدقة الفطر. Imam Hasan al-Basri, rahimahullah, he said, there's no problem to give money for Zakat al-Fitr. لا بأس. He says, وكتب خليفة بن عمر بن عزيز إلى عامله في البصرة. And Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, he was the leader of the Muslims during that time, and he wrote to one of his workers in the city of Basra. He said to him, أن يأخذ من أهل الديون من كل إنسان نصف درهم. And he took from them a dirham, half of a dirham. وذكر ابن منذر في كتابه الأوسط. We also find it in another book called Al-Awsat. And it says, in the Sahaba, ajazu ikhraj nisfu sa' min qamh. So the Sahaba, some of them say, it is also permissible to pay Zakat al-Fitr with half of a sa' of wheat. Is also sufficient for Zakat al-Fitr. The moral of the story is that when you hear this, someone will say, okay, well, it's still not permissible. So someone else, another argument would be is, why is it that we give out Zakat al-Fitr in rice? There's no hadith that says that you give it out in rice. So now the ruling on this situation here, it goes back to one issue. For those of you that have attended some of our classes in the past, Islam, a deen of Islam, rulings in Islam are based on one of two things. Either the issue is ta'abbudi or it is mu'allal. And this, you remember this, right? Ta'abbudi, it means we hear and we obey. We don't ask any questions about it. For example, Salatul Maghrib. Why is Salatul Maghrib 3 rak'at, not 4? We don't know why. So we hear and we obey. That means we can't compare it to anything else. We can't think outside the box with regards to Salatul Maghrib, nor for Salatul Maghrib or Salatul Fajr, for example. Why is Salatul Fajr 2 rak'at? Why isn't it 3? Why isn't it 4? Huh? We don't know the reason, so therefore we can't look at that and compare it to something else. Wadah? Is that clear? This hadith here, with regards to paying Zakatul Fitr, Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, he gave us 5 things that we must pay Zakatul Fitr on. Now, the scholars of Al-Islam, they look at this hadith and they either say, okay, so this is why you have these different positions. Some of them say, well, this issue is ta'abbudi, meaning there's no room for debate, that it must be these 5 things. And nothing else, nothing outside of this. You have ta'ifatun min ahlul ilm yaquluna hadha. We have a group from the scholars of Al-Islam, they say that. Why are they saying that? Because they say that this issue here is ta'abbudi, meaning there's no room for difference of opinion, there's no room for your intellect here. Allah says this, or the Prophet ﷺ says this, we hear and we obey, and that's it. That's one group. Then we have another group of ulama, they say that this hadith is mu'allal, meaning this hadith is based on these foods here. There's a reason why the Prophet ﷺ mentioned these foods. So the scholars, okay, the reason why these foods are mentioned, because these are the foods of the people. Therefore, the foods of our people, we might eat rice. So then we can add rice to that. And this is why you have another group from the ulama saying that you can pay with rice. Right? Even though it's outside of the 5, because they consider this hadith to be mu'allal, meaning the reason for the legislation may be known. If it's known, then they can look and add something. Maybe we can add rice. Maybe we can add this. And this also opens up the lane for those scholars that say you can also pay in money. Right? Because they look at the other hadith, it says, enrich them on this day. Well, we may say in our city, we might have people that are poor, but they all got food. People get food stamps. Everyone has food. But they say, you know what? They don't have money. Their lights are off. Their electric bill is off. They need to pay bills. So some group may say, okay, well, we pay Zakat al-Fitr in money based on the fact that they believe that this hadith is mu'allal, meaning the reason for the legislation is known. Is that clear, ya akhwan? We're going to end with that, inshallah. I think the adhan just came in. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayh. Wa jazakumullahu khairan.